Alright, so we are back at it. This is going to be the part 2 that we've been also waiting for. I've been waiting for it. It's been taking me a while to get the motivation to get into this. Well, anyway, a couple things. I've been reading like some stuff on like M1 forums. I joined some sort of Facebook group. It can be really ridiculous. You got guys that are just like way off the deep end about everything about how the finish was. I don't know, somebody was saying that originally they only used raw linseed oil, not boiled, so that's what you got to use to keep it original. Some say when you sand it down like this, you just sanded away the history. I did sand already this hand grip here. To me, it still looks like there's a lot of history in there, but now the finish actually looks nicer. It doesn't look all gunked up. So I just used some 320 sanding paper, just sanded it lightly down, cleaned it up with a tack cloth, air compressor, and then I just used some of this here, boiled linseed oil, because that's what they had in the store. They didn't have raw linseed oil. And then I watched some videos on guys refinishing M1s, and there's a guy that only uses tongue oil because he said at some point they realized that the linseed oil didn't hold up as well, so they used tongue oil. You know what? And then there's guys that get special stains to give it the reddish hue as if it were aged. Like I guess the linseed oil would turn red over time or darken. And so there's guys that apply a stain to it. Look, I just wanted it so it wasn't like sticky. When I held it in my hands, it was all like kind of greasy and grimy. Obviously, it's not going to be a showpiece. I didn't want it to be. And I think by sanding it down, obviously, there's going to be some character in this weapon here. It's quite obvious that this is not a showpiece. I didn't use wood fill like some guys did and fill in all the little divots and stuff. But I am going to hit this with some boiled linseed oil. I just did the 320 sanding on it. I'm going to use the tack cloth here in a second. And I don't know, if it turns out as well as what this hand grip here, hand guard, if it turns out like that, I'll be happy. Now this hand guard, I've only put one coat of boiled linseed oil on, so obviously I'm going to do two, but there again, they all tell you how long you should wait. One guy said a minimum of 48 hours, so it's been a couple days since I've been at this project, so yeah, so I'm going to get set up and I'll put a coat of boiled linseed oil on this, and then we'll have a look at it then and see what it looks like. Alright, so there's the first coat of boiled linseed oil. This doesn't look too bad. There's definitely spots where it got real light here when I was sanding it. I don't know, maybe I sanded too far. It's light on top there too, but then there's spots here where I went over quite a bit, and that's like right in here that just stayed dark. So I don't know, that's the first little application. I left it on about 15 minutes and I came back with a paper towel and just kind of wiped it all off. So I don't know, we'll hit it a couple more times, maybe I'll get it to darken up a little bit more over time. Also the little the end plate here, I took this and cleaned it up a little bit. I don't know, I was going to try to sand out all the kind of like the scratch marks and stuff, but I don't know if I'm going to get those out. But I mean, it's better than what it was. Looks a lot better. It looks cleaner, I guess. It doesn't look as dirty when you kind of shine it up. I suppose I could throw it on the buffer too, maybe, and try to buff that up a little bit. But so I haven't cleaned like any of the internals yet. I haven't gotten to that part. I broke it apart a little bit, but the first thing I wanted to see is what the stain or the finish or whatever I was putting on it, what it would look like, because like I said, there's so many different opinions on how you're supposed to do it the correct way. So, I don't know, I'll keep working on it and we'll see how it turns out here. Alright, so here it is. I put it all back together again. I did not clean any of it. Right now I'm just kind of wanted to get it back together, see what it was going to look like, and see if I'm satisfied with it. I can tell you this, after sanding down with that 320, and then I got 2 coats of this boiled linseed oil on here. After doing that, it is much smoother to hold. It doesn't get sticky in your hands like it was before. I think some of the character in here was brought out after sanding it down and putting that linseed oil on it. Obviously there's 2 different types of wood. on here, so I don't know if these two top pieces, if those are walnut or what. I'm not an expert here. We'll take a closer look at it here. So these two pieces here, I believe this is the handguard. I don't know what this piece on the top is called. Like, I'm not an expert, and the more I read up and kind of watch videos, I don't know, like, collectors can be way over the top with stuff sometimes. And then when they get way over the top, they make it to a point where the process is too difficult to follow, because they get way over top on it. I find the same thing when just watching some videos like on ham radios and stuff. It's like they'll tell you this is going to be a simple guide on how to do it, and then they go way over the top. It's a video that's like an hour long, and they never get to their point. It's like they're just very long-winded. So I'm trying to do this for the guy that like wants something that's simple to do and without any of the jargon, I guess. So like I said, that was just 2 coats of generic boiled linseed oil that I put on there in the background. I used some 320 sanding paper, kind of lightly went over the whole thing, and then I wiped it down with just a tack cloth. On the back here, like I said, I hit that with the fine belt sander. I did a little light type of buffing on it. I didn't want to take everything out, and I didn't have the correct type of buffing compound either to really get that to shine. But there again, I mean, if you want to spend a bunch of money on a bunch of different products to get it to do what you want it to do, you can. But if you just want to use the thing to shoot, this is, it won't be grimy in your hands anymore, won't be sticky, and I think it looks alright. Let me flip it around here and we'll take a look at the other side. Alright, so this is the other side. I get why like these pieces get all dark in here, the wood gets really dark. You're supposed to use a grease on this. I didn't know that, I've never owned one, but it seems to be an overwhelming consistency throughout videos that you use a grease, and what I would call some of the experts, I guess, that do it. But here's the problem. They're all going to tell you different types of thing with grease. They all have their own little, like, it has to be a specific military type of grease. I'm not so sure on that. I'm pretty sure you could use any type of grease. Obviously, I'd want something that's probably tackier, because the stuff that gets runny is going to make a mess, kind of like what this has. I suppose as it heats up, that oil, the oil and the grease kind of runs down. This is all shiny on top from some CLP that I had, just because it was kind of sticky. I did watch some videos where I watch these guys, and like they have to assist the, I don't know if that's called the operating rod, forward to load it. My understanding is that when you have the thing back and it's supposed to ride forward, it should chamber without you having to push. If you need to push, there's chances, at least I believe, something needs to be greased or oiled. That should work pretty well without having to assist it at all. I guess it could be weak, but a lot of these guys that I've watched, amateurs I guess you'd call it, it seems like they just don't have the thing oiled or greased up enough. For the oil or lubricant that most people use, it seems to be CLP. That I think you can get almost anywhere. I'm not sure what the difference is between CLP and like a gun oil. I know CLP is cleaner lubricant preservative, because that's what we used in the Guard, but other than that, I'm not real sure what the difference is. Besides, I know CLP has a distinct smell, instant flashbacks of cleaning weapons with that stuff. So I don't know, some guy said you could use like a Mobile One grease. I do have some GAA grease, so that's grease, auto, and artillery. I got like a 5-gallon pail of that stuff. I've never used it for anything, but I don't know if I'd use that or not, because that's older grease too. Maybe that's the right thing to use. So that's kind of what it looks like. I'll just cycle through the action here so you can see what it kind of looks like. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is when I watch some of these guys load, or if they're cycling through, it kind of hangs up. So when we pull it back, it's like that, and I was getting it was hanging up. I'd have to really assist this forward. So I just hit it with a little bit of CLP just because it was sticky a little bit, and I know that's not the right thing probably to use. Like I said, you should be using a grease. But if we go ahead and load it, and I see a lot of guys do different ways of loading it in the correct way. I always keep my hand on this because I'm not gonna smash my thumb, and I will hold this as it rides forward. But as you get to this point, it should just pull itself forward. There's no reason why you should have to assist it forward. If you got everything greased and lubricated correctly, I don't see why that shouldn't just pull forward. Because I've seen guys get to this point, they get to here, and it's hard for me to do because mine won't do it, but they get to this point and they're just hammering this thing forward to get it to ride, to pull off that first chamber, that first round. I don't know about that. To me, I would look into greasing or oiling, or something's not quite set up right, because it shouldn't pull that hard. There's a heck of a spring in here that's helping with that whole process. So other than that, like I said, I'm not an expert on these at all, but some of the experts that are out there, they're not very concise, and it can become if you go into some of those forums, or like I said, I joined some sort of Facebook group that I'm just about done with. It's just way over the top. It's like every single day someone's posting a picture or an image of M1 stuff, and I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm not way over the top like that. Like, I have an appreciation for it. I'd like it to be in like operating condition, but I'm not gonna sit here, and I know some guys will go through and date all the parts. Yeah, that's cool if you're into that, but I am definitely not into like getting way in over the top on something like that. Like, have an appreciation for it. I like shooting, that type of thing, but when it comes to like collecting, I'm definitely not a collector in any way, shape, or form. And you see that with, I guess, collectors with all types of things. They can get way over the top, but I mean, it's okay to be completely dived into something, but then be able to like express yourself so we can understand what you're saying, and don't go way over the top. They're definitely collectors in different areas, not in M1s, that do a great job explaining their hobby or their collection. But then there's some that are out there that, wow, they not very concise at all. So I think that's going to wrap up video 2. Video 3, I'll tear the thing all apart when I decide what type of grease I'm going to go with. Like I said, I may just use something off the shelf just because. I don't know, I can't see spending $10 on a tube of grease that's I'm only going to really use for this. I mean, it's real easy though. It's really easy to buy a bunch of little parts and pieces that are just specific if you get into some of those forums and that type of thing. Alright, so before we get going here, I just want to do a quick before, and then I'll do a after picture of what it looks like now. Alright, so that's going to be it for now.